James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Embark on a journey through the life of Stephen Dedalus, exploring his quest for self-discovery and artistic expression while facing life's challenges and complexities. In his A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, James Joyce invites readers into Stephen's world, from his early childhood to his transition into adulthood. Discover vivid representations of Irish culture, politics, and religion alongside the universal themes of self-exploration and the search for identity. This book summary captures the key highlights and overarching message of this classic novel, guiding you through Stephen's development and celebrating the vivid language and rich symbolism employed by Joyce.
Little Stephen's childhood. Little Stephen Dedalus enjoys his childhood listening to his father's stories and his mother's piano. He dreams of marrying the girl next door, Eileen. One day, hiding under the dining table, Stephen couldn't apologize for his mistake, and his governess warns him of an eagle pecking his eyes out. Stephen's struggle. Stephen, a student at Clongoweswood College, doesn't enjoy playing sports with his classmates and is teased because of his name. He is selected for a math competition but fails to come up with the correct answer, and his team loses. This leads him to think about the universe, the nothingness around him, and God's presence, which he believes is the same everywhere. As he dreams of spending the Christmas holidays with his mother, he falls sick with a temperature, making him wonder if he will die. Meanwhile, Brother Michael announces the death of Irish patriot Parnell. The story presents Stephen as a young boy struggling with his identity, his environment, and the meaning of life. Christmas Eve debate. Stephen's family gathers for a Christmas Eve dinner, and a passionate debate ensues over politics, religion, and Irish leader Charles Stewart Parnell. Stephen's father and a family friend fiercely defend Parnell and his cause, arguing against the Catholic Church's criticism. However, Stephen's cousin Dante strongly disagrees, stating that the Church should always come first. The argument reaches a boiling point when Dante storms out of the room after being accused of denouncing God. Despite the tension, the two men raise a tearful toast to Parnell, leaving Stephen to contemplate the complexities of Irish identity and culture. Justice for Stephen. Stephen stands up against injustice at his boarding school, earning him the respect of his peers. At his boarding school, Stephen learns that two boys have run away to avoid punishment. One story claims they were caught stealing wine, but another boy says they were caught kissing. During Latin class, Father Dolan smacks Stephen and another boy for seemingly insignificant reasons. Stephen feels helpless, but after gathering his courage, he goes to the rector to complain. Despite the rector's attempts to excuse Father Dolan's actions, he promises to speak to him and prevent future mistreatment of Stephen. After Stephen shares the news of his success with his classmates, they celebrate him as a hero for standing up against injustice. This story portrays the theme of perseverance, as Stephen pushes through his fear and stands up for himself to fight for what's right. It also highlights the relationship between authority figures and their pupils, and how this dynamic can cause conflict and mistreatment. Despite being set in a boarding school in the early 1900s, this story is relatable to anyone who has felt powerless in the face of authority, and it serves as a reminder to speak up when faced with unfair treatment. Summer adventures. Stephen spends a summer in Blackrock with his uncle Charles and his father's friend Mike Flynn. He reads the Count of Monte Cristo in the evenings and daydreams about being the avenging hero. He starts a gang with Aubrey Mills, but the gang and his summer adventures come to an end when he doesn't have to go back to Clongoweswood due to financial difficulties. He feels isolated from the other children and retreats further into his fantasy world. Stephen's solo adventure. Stephen and his family move to Dublin, where he continues his search for his imaginary Mercedes. At a children's party, he enjoys being an observer but catches the eye of a girl named Emma. After leaving the party together, they have a chance to kiss, but Stephen does not take it. He later writes a poem about the missed opportunity. Stephen's evening drama. Stephen, the lead actor in a theater performance, meets his classmate Heron and his companion Wallace, who make fun of him for having a girlfriend. One of them playfully slaps him with a riding whip, reminding Stephen of a previous argument. The performance is a success, but afterwards, Stephen discovers the girl mentioned by Heron had already left and runs into the city to calm down. A journey to connect. Stephen accompanies his father to Cork, and on the train, his father reminisces about the past. They visit his father's old college, but Stephen struggles to keep his interest. However, in the anatomy classroom, he reads the word fetus carved into a desk and begins to imagine life at the school. As they wander around pubs, Stephen watches his father get drunk with old friends, who try to draw similarities between him and his father. Though Stephen feels disconnected, the journey is an attempt to connect the past and the present. Stephen's journey of sin and redemption. Stephen, a prize-winning student, spends his prize money on indulgences, including prostitution. Despite guilt plaguing his conscience, he continues his sinful escapades until a devout week-long retreat threatens to consume him with terror of eternal damnation. Wandering through Dublin streets aimlessly, he finds himself in a chapel where he confesses to an old priest and finds redemption, deciding to live a pious life henceforth. The struggle of a repentant sinner. Stephen, a self-disciplined sinner, doubts his forgiveness from God despite his efforts to live a virtuous life. When asked to consider becoming a priest, he initially feels elated but soon realizes the sacrifices and rules involved may hinder his desires. Stephen, a once sinful man, now lives life as a devout Catholic, praying frequently and carrying a rosary at all times. His self-discipline involves avoiding women and subjecting himself to harsh senses to discipline his body. Despite his efforts, he doubts his absolution from sin and questions his faith. After the holidays, Stephen is approached by the rector, who asks him to consider becoming a priest. Stephen is ecstatic, but his excitement wanes as he considers the structured, disciplined life that comes with the vocation. He realizes that becoming a priest may hinder his desire to create and soar freely, much like the great artificer whose name he bears. In this book, Stephen's conflicting desires, doubts, and self-discipline are explored in a relatable manner, highlighting the struggles of living a virtuous life. Escaping the chains. Stephen seeks to escape his strict religious upbringing by going to university, as he believes it will help him fly to freedom like the character Dedalus from Greek mythology. While wandering along the river and beach, he encounters classmates and a beautiful woman, whose glance makes him feel like he's seen an angel. Excited about the future, he falls asleep on the beach and wakes up in the evening. Stephen's university life. Stephen Dedalus begins his classes at university amidst his family's worsening financial situation. As he heads to class, he ponders on his friend Davin's nationalist beliefs and his own resistance to being limited by religion or nationalism. At the university, he has an intense conversation with the Dean of Studies about beauty and how to start a fire. Later, Stephen engages in banter with his friends and gets into an argument with his friend Macan about signing a petition for national peace. Stephen's individualism is admired by his friend Temple, but Davin is disappointed by his rejection of Irish roots. Stephen's aesthetic theory. As Stephen walks with his friend and explains his aesthetic theory, he spots Emma and muses about his feelings for her. He dreams of her and writes a poem, wondering if she knows how he feels. He thinks about how human beings have lost intuition and only want to analyze everything. Stephen argues with his mother about going to church, but his friend Cranley suggests a mother's love should trump religious conviction. Stephen plans to leave everything to dedicate himself fully to art, which saddens Cranley. Stephen's inner struggle. Stephen's diary entries showcase his conflicts with faith, passion, and societal norms. His mother accuses him of losing faith due to excessive reading, but he feels no guilt. He meets Emma, who questions his poetry, causing confusion. Ultimately, Stephen's desire to explore the world and gain new experiences drives him to leave Ireland.
Through the trials and tribulations of Stephen Dedalus's life, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man speaks to the power and passion of the human spirit. As we watch Stephen navigate the complexities of family, religion, and politics, we are reminded of our own desires and struggles. Joyce's unique prose and vivid imagery provide a compelling backdrop to Stephen's intellectual and artistic journey, making this novel a timeless classic that resonates with readers across generations. And as Stephen ultimately seeks to forge his own path in the world, we are left with a sense of the possibility and promise that emerges when we pursue life on our terms and embrace the passions that define us.